It's not every day you see a mugshot like this, smiling and confident. But police in Alabama say, don't be fooled by the grin on this wellness guru. Behind that smile, investigators allege, was a major drug trafficking operation, and it was all in the family. Her husband and dad have also been charged, and one of them was even caught in a separate child sex sting. Now the woman dubbed the Smiling Trafficker is facing more than 24 charges, and a new twist has just been revealed about where she's headed next. We're on the case, presented by Law&Crime. I'm Chris Stewart. Before we get into this episode of On the Case, one of the most watched shows on all of YouTube, I need to talk about our partner and sponsor, Morgan & Morgan, America's largest injury law firm. They have more than 1,000 attorneys, and they've recovered more than $25 billion for their more than 500,000 clients. In the past few months alone, a client in Florida received $12 million when insurance offered just $350,000. In Pennsylvania, another client was awarded $26 million. That's 40 times the insurer's offer. Morgan & Morgan makes it so easy to start a claim. You can do it with just 8 clicks on your phone. So if you've been hurt and you need to start a claim, go to www.forthepeople.com/OTC. Also, you can scan this QR code on your screen and click the link below. When you see how a drug trafficking defendant is approaching this case, and you see the charges she's facing, you just have to wonder, what does she know that we don't? This is video per the Coleman Daily newspaper in Alabama of Whitney Cheatham in custody, flashing a wave at the camera. She's been in custody since her arrest in August. Now here's her mugshot. It went viral because of just that huge smile on her face. I have a big update in this case, and I'll tell you about that in just a moment. It has to do with a lot of money. But let me get you up to speed on how this mom allegedly turned into a major mover of drugs and how she's not the only member of her family allegedly involved in this. Cheatham lives in Coleman, Alabama. It's a small city between Birmingham and Huntsville, headed more towards the northern part of the state. In Coleman, she was the owner of Infusion Wellness and Spa. It's not open at the moment because of the legal issues its boss is currently facing. But on its Yelp page, Whitney wrote that her business was the first clinic in Coleman to specialize in IV therapy and various wellness services, including weight loss management and Botox parties. What it doesn't list is the alleged service that she was running out of that business, according to police. WBMA-TV reports that Coleman police say on August 5th, they got a tip that Whitney was allegedly writing forged prescriptions that were sent to local pharmacies to get controlled substances. 2 weeks later, after that tip came in, the DA filed drug trafficking charges against Whitney. According to an indictment, she faces 25 charges in total. That includes 3 for allegedly trafficking opium, 5 for distribution of a controlled substance, and 10 forgery charges. She also faces counts of conspiracy to traffic opium, attempt to distribute drugs, conspire to distribute controlled substances, and attempted trafficking of illegal drugs. The indictment says the drugs that she allegedly trafficked were prescription painkillers oxycodone and hydrocodone, ADHD drug Adderall, anxiety drug Xanax, and the hormone testosterone. The indictment also accuses Cheatham of conspiring to distribute the controlled substances dating back to December 12, 2024. For a conspiracy, you need to have more than one person, and that is where this story takes another turn and it becomes a family affair, allegedly. Now, this is a Facebook post of Cheatham with her dad, Kelvin, with the ironic caption, 2 wild cards and their favorite accomplice, posted just one day before police found out about the alleged drug trafficking scheme. On September 4th, a couple weeks after Whitney's arrest, her dad turned himself in. Police had considered him on the run since August 18th, 2 days after his daughter was arrested. He's now facing 11 charges, including 6 felonies. Now, the Coleman Tribune reports that he is charged with 2 counts of drug trafficking, attempted drug trafficking, criminal conspiracy to commit drug trafficking, criminal conspiracy to commit a controlled substance crime, unlawful possession of a controlled substance by fraud, and 5 counts of fourth-degree criminal possession of a forged instrument. We're not done. There is a third man facing charges in connection to this alleged drug ring. His name is Cody Ray Smith. He was arrested 2 days after Cheatham, his reported estranged wife. Police say that he was arrested and charged with 11 offenses, including 6 felonies, the same as his estranged father-in-law. Now, those include criminal conspiracy to commit a controlled substance. It's unclear if Smith and Cheatham are still legally married as they're facing these serious charges, but we are learning more about Cheatham's dad and her husband's criminal records, and frankly, their criminal past is disturbing. And it doesn't have to do with drugs. According to CBS 42, Kelvin Cheatham was arrested and charged with first-degree rape and second-degree sodomy involving a minor in 2008. He reportedly pleaded to a lesser charge of sexual misconduct, and he served 6 months in prison. Cody Smith was arrested just in May of this year in nearby Blount County on child trafficking charges per WBRC-TV, and he was reportedly busted in a child exploitation operation involving Chris Hansen, who you do see often here on Law and Crime. On May 29th, he was arrested and charged with human trafficking, sex offenses involving minors, electronic solicitation, and traveling to meet a child to perform a sexual act. Those charges are very different compared to the ring that he's accused of being involved in with Whitney Cheatham, who went viral for flashing that massive smile on her face during her arrest. Now, she's going to be out of jail as her case moves forward. This is video per the Coleman Daily of Cheatham waving at cameras with a big smile just days after her August arrest. Just in the last couple of days, she was able to post a bond which was set at $1.05 million. It's unclear how she was able to post that amount of money, whether it was through cash or through a bail bond where someone would typically have to pay 10%, so you're talking more than $100,000. Joining us now to talk more about this is trial attorney and criminal defense attorney Andrew Baldwin. It's always great to have you on Law and Crime. Interesting case here, and I just want to start because it's really what made this story go viral in the first place was just the mugshot of Whitney Cheatham, who is one of the main suspects in this case, and she's smiling. She also flashes a wave at the camera when she was in custody. What is your advice to clients when it comes to a mugshot or a perp walk and how they should handle those situations?
Well, most of the time thanks Chris, we don't get a chance to advise our client before they're arrested. They're arrested and typically they get their mugshot without their lawyer present or even knowing that they've been arrested because we get hired after the fact. But there are those occasions like this one where I think at least one or two of the co-defendants turned themselves in later, so they presumably have had counsel. And I would tell them, don't be smiling like your daughter did. The dad turned himself in about a month ago, I think. Don't be smiling. I mean, just look straight at the camera, and you don't need the media or the public, some who might end up on a jury, to be having a certain perception of who you are. Certainly don't be waving to the camera on your way out. We do have that happen where we'll be hired and we'll wait for the client to leave the jail. We'll walk out with them and, you do the shielding of them with your jacket or whatever. It's kind of overdone. I just say, look straight ahead, get into the car and get out.
As a former television reporter, I've been on the other side of that, the person that I'm sure you've shielded from. Based off what we've seen from her mugshot, and she's facing 25 charges total, they seem like some pretty serious charges. Whitney Cheatham, just what stands out to you as a suspect in this case?
Well, first of all, I wouldn't be smiling in the mugshot if she knew how much time she was facing. She's facing 25 mandatory years in Alabama for the lead counts, the first, I think, 2 counts. Don't know if those run concurrently or consecutively, meaning is she really facing 50 mandatory? And then on top of it, some of the other kind of oddball charges like testosterone, dealing testosterone. Isn't that a weird charge? I don't see that very often. That's facing up to 30 years. So, these are serious charges. It's very odd that her father is somehow involved in this, and then she's got what I think now is an ex-husband which is just another odd thing. That I think back in May, he was part of a sting operation, and like the Chris Hansen. Actually, it was Chris Hansen, oddly enough, that you used to watch on television, and the ex-husband got busted allegedly trying to have sex with a 15-year-old girl who was actually some type of decoy. So this is a weird set of ingredients for a case, and then you throw in the fact that it's a wellness spa, and you just wonder, it causes you to think, what is going on in this wellness spa? Is there drug deals being done in there, allegedly? And the last thing I'll say, having read through the charging information, there are specific dates that are shown and identified in the charging information, not a range. Some of them are a range of dates, but when you have a specific date, that tells me something. One of those dates is dating all the way back to January. And you wonder have they been investigating this since January, or did the ex-boyfriend, when he got popped for his thing, did he start spouting his mouth? Hey, I know things that are going on. There's all kinds of possibilities here.
And piecing together what it seems like law enforcement believes allegedly happened is that she was writing these fake prescriptions. And she's not, just from what I've seen from the business, I mean, this is a place where people do like the cold plunge you see on Instagram, or I know it advertises like Botox parties. This isn't a place that seems like it would do prescriptions for oxycodone and hydrocodone and Adderall, which she's accused of trafficking. But writing these fake prescriptions that are then taken to pharmacies and filled, and then it seems like, you get the drugs back and you can do whatever alleged illegal activity with those. On the flip side, it's not like she, from what we can tell, is like working for the cartel and trafficking cocaine and heroin, some of the narcos stuff that you've seen. How does the law look at a case like this, fake prescriptions allegedly for prescription drugs, compared to someone who might be trafficking some very serious narcotics?
Well, I mean, in the eyes of the law, whatever you're facing. I mean, judges, they might take a little bit of a different treatment to somebody who's forging prescriptions and getting those prescriptions and possibly supporting their drug habit. That's something that we commonly see is people will go in, they'll get, they might steal a doctor's script pad and go buy or go purchase the drugs and then use them. But it's really, and if they're selling them to support their habit. I don't know if that's what's going on here or not. I mean, that could be helpful in terms of a mitigating fact for purposes of plea negotiations or sentencing. But, if you're breaking the law and, they certainly what she's accused of, the hydrocodone counts, which are the lead counts, is the law says 25 mandatory minimum years. The other counts are 2 to 30 years. So they're a little bit, allow you for a little bit of leeway as you negotiate. So I don't know, and I don't know what is actually going on in that wellness spa. I don't know, and I think you're right, Chris. I think knowing that story helps the defense lawyer. Is what's going on here? She's a drug addict, her dad's a drug addict, the ex-husband's a drug addict, and they're trying to support their habit, or are they trying to get rich? And then you factor in, well, my goodness, she just paid a huge bond. Where does that money come from? So,
walk us through that, because it's a more than $1 million bond. And I know in some cases someone can post like 10%, but that's still $100,000, right? That you would have to put forward. It's still unclear whether this was a cash bond or some sort of bail bond that she used. Walk us through what would actually go into posting that kind of bond.
Well, when we have clients that have a large bond, what we tell them is try to pay the cash side of it, because you're going to get all of that back so long as you show back up for court and the case finishes out with you not disappearing. Because when you pay a surety bond of, in this case, $100,000, if that's what it is, you're never getting that money back. So I like to give advice to clients that way. Hey, you're never going to get that money back. So if you're going to pay a bonding agent, just kiss that money goodbye. You're never going to see it again. Most of the time, I will tell most clients are not in a position to either hire a really good lawyer or bond out on a big case like that. So that's another thing I'll talk to them about. Do you want to get out now and have some freedom, and perhaps recognizing that you're going to be in there for a long time if we cannot pull some magic out of our rear ends as defense lawyers? Or do you want to have the good lawyer, or do you want to stay in? I mean, sometimes you don't get both. So I'm going to be curious. Again, we get back into, is whatever is going on allegedly, maybe nothing's going on, by the way. We need to realize that. This might be, she is innocent until proven guilty. But if there is some juice to this case in terms of the facts, the question might be, are they getting rich here in this little storefront, and it's really a big drug operation, kind of a homegrown drug operation where they're making money, and that's how they were able to pay for both a good defense lawyer, if they have one, and a high bond? I don't know. I think those facts, like you said earlier, Chris, I think that's going to be crucial.
In a case like this, I mean, you have 3 defendants. They're all accused of being part of the same operation, all facing some very serious time. Seems like they would have their individual defense attorneys. If you were someone defending Whitney Cheatham and you see that, and I don't know what the family dynamics is in terms of, how close they are in their relationship, close enough to allegedly be involved in this, but I mean, how do you go about potentially using those other suspects to help your client in her case and try to keep her out of jail?
Well, anytime you have co-defendants, let the finger pointing begin. I mean, the ex-husband, I would imagine, has an axe to grind. It sounds like he got divorced after what he's accused of doing with the underage, alleged underage 15-year-old girl. And so they get divorced, and now, he might have an axe to grind. Maybe he's in love with her, on the other hand, and this is how he can prove his love. The dad was out on bond, or was not out on bond. He was just out on the run for a month or so before he turned himself in. So what is going on behind the scenes? Are he and the daughter getting their stories together, like, I'm going to take the fall for you, baby, you're my daughter, I love you. I mean, these things actually happen in the real world. It's not just like television and movies. It really does happen. I mean, these are real human beings with real backstories of their lives, and you just don't know what's going on. So if I'm representing her, I'm trying to get a lay of the land of what's going on with my ex-husband. Is he pointing the finger at me? Is my dad going to be able to take the fall, take some of the blow of whatever the ultimate outcome is in terms of the sentence? Those are all things that I'm trying to find out. So you sometimes you reach out to the attorneys of the other parties and you say, hey, where's your guy at? What's he doing? Is he gonna really try to go after my lady, or is he going to help out? And those are the types of things that you want to find out.
Reportedly, the tip first came in August 5th that something was going on at this spot, and then she's arrested, I believe it was August 16th, so roughly, I guess that would be 11 days later, less than 2 weeks later. What type of evidence in a case like this would prosecutors need to have? Because if she's writing fake prescriptions, if she's getting this very, it's controlled substances and they're available through prescription, but oxycodone is a pretty serious drug to be, selling to allegedly someone else who doesn't have a prescription for it. What type of evidence in these types of cases do prosecutors need to have to actually get a conviction?
These things are damaging big time. These are hugely, like, when I started practicing 32 years ago, you didn't have cell phones with geofencing data and text messages between you and different people. And even though you try to erase those things or delete them, they still show up on, the phone extractions. And so that I would be getting the phones. You'd be looking for some type of ledger that shows, where things are going and where the money's coming in and going out. You'd be looking for the actual drugs. I mean, if you have hydrocodone and you're not a doctor, and you have a high amount of hydrocodone in your business, you have to explain that. So I'd be looking for that. It is, again, curious that one of the counts that caught my eye, even though I think it's a lesser count, goes back to January 30th of 2025. So that's presumably after they've got the tips. So how were they able to go back? It tells me that they have computers with information on them. Maybe it's the ex-boyfriend saying, hey, I've got information all the way back to, this has been an enterprise for a long, long time. So those are the types of things, if they're smart, the police will also try to get fingerprints off of, any packaged drugs to make sure, because when you have co-defendants, you want to, and they're pointing the finger at each other, you want to see whose fingerprints are on those packages.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's to think about what evidence might come into this. Another part of it that on the, in terms of public opinion, for Cody Smith, the defendant, having been busted in a Chris Hansen sting for allegedly trying to have sex with an underage girl, that was, again, it was a sting operation, but it's on video. How likely is it that that could make its way into this case if it was to go to trial?
It's hard to believe that it would actually be a part of an evidentiary presentation at trial, just because it's what's called 404B evidence, which is prior bad act evidence, and it seemingly has nothing to do with whether drugs. There could be a connection that we don't know about, but it's unlikely. However, there are permitted uses under 404B, and if you are her attorney, you might say, hey, the reason he's trying to get himself out of his own jam here. Here's what his jam is. He's been accused of trying to have sex with a 15-year-old, and therefore he set me up in order to lessen his charges or something, or in some desperate Hail Mary to get away from his charges. Maybe that is how you could try to bring it in. But most judges are not going to allow something like that to cloud the main case of the drug charges.
And then circling back to Whitney Cheatham, because when you think of someone who is a drug trafficker, you think of like Pablo Escobar.
Right.
She looks like a housewife from Alabama. I don't believe she has a criminal record prior to this. Of course, we'd love to believe that the law is applied, to everyone based on the facts and the way somebody looks, the way that they act, that wouldn't have an impact on how a jury sees them. Based off her profile being that, kind of this, the last person you would think, I could see a defense attorney saying, to be a drug trafficker, could that have an impact on her defense? How effective would that defense be if her attorney tried to pitch it that way?
Oh, I think it could be effective, especially, again, if you're pointing the finger at the other two guys, because, maybe her fingerprints are, again, these are all allegations, but maybe her fingerprints, literal fingerprints are on things, or maybe figurative fingerprints are all over the case. It makes a person believe that she had something to do with this. Yet, she's being controlled by an ex-husband and a dad who apparently has his own criminal past as well, and you could pitch it that way. I mean, again, it's going to be hard to get those criminal charges of prior criminal charges or current criminal charges of the ex-husband and the dad in, but if you're able to, as a defense lawyer, to get a judge to agree that they should come in as part of your Sixth Amendment right to present a defense, then you could pose her as she was being controlled by these people, and don't convict her, convict the real bad guys, the ex-husband, the dad.
Yeah, it's a very interesting case, a lot of layers out of Coleman, Alabama. Andrew Baldwin, criminal defense attorney, trial attorney. Always great to have you on Law and Crime. Thanks for talking about this one with us.
Great to see you, Chris. Thank you.
That will do it for On the Case, presented by Law and Crime. Subscribe to us on YouTube and Spotify. I'm Chris Stewart. We'll see you next time.